They called me useless, in a courtroom, in front of everyone. But what happened next? Even the judge couldn't stay silent. Because one truth, one hidden video, turned their entire world upside down. Stay with me, this isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a moment of justice they never saw coming. Disclaimer: this story is fictional and created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. The courtroom felt colder than any place I had ever stood in before. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, as if every breath carried the weight of judgment. I stood near the front, my fingers slightly curled into my palms, trying to hide the nervous tremble that refused to leave my body. Across the room, my parents sat side by side, calm and confident, dressed like they were attending a celebration rather than a legal battle against their own daughter. They leaned toward their lawyer, whispering with quiet certainty, as though the outcome had already been decided in their favor long before this day even arrived. Then my father's voice broke through the silence, sharp and unapologetic. He didn't look at me when he spoke. Instead, he looked straight ahead, as if I didn't deserve even that small acknowledgement. He pointed in my direction and said the word that had followed me like a shadow my entire life: useless. The word echoed in the courtroom, louder than it should have been, settling into every corner of the room. A few people shifted in their seats, uncomfortable, but no one said anything. My mother remained still beside him, her expression firm, her silence louder than any agreement she could have spoken. That word was not new to me. It had been used against me in moments big and small, shaping how they saw me and, for a long time, how I saw myself. When I didn't score high enough in exams, I was useless. When I chose a different path instead of the career they demanded, I was useless. When I refused to marry someone they had selected without asking me, I became completely useless in their eyes. But today, something was different. Today, I wasn't standing there as a daughter seeking approval. I was standing there as someone who had finally decided to fight back. This case wasn't about emotions alone. It was about something real, something they desperately wanted to take from me: the small house my grandfather had left behind. A simple place, nothing luxurious, but it held meaning far deeper than its walls or land value. My parents claimed I had manipulated him, that I had influenced him when he was weak, and that I had no right to what he had given me. They argued that I had no achievements, no stability, and no capability to handle such responsibility. Their words painted a picture of someone incapable, someone undeserving, someone easy to dismiss. But what they didn't know was that my grandfather had already seen this coming. He had understood the kind of people they had become, and he had quietly prepared for this moment long before it arrived. When the judge asked if I had anything to say, the question seemed simple, but it carried the weight of everything I had held inside for years. For a brief second, the room faded away. The whispers, the stares, even my parents' presence became distant. All that remained was the choice in front of me: stay silent, like I always had, or finally speak the truth. I stepped forward, my voice steadier than I expected, and placed a file on the table in front of me. It was thick, filled with pages that represented not just evidence, but pieces of my life that had gone unnoticed. I admitted something first, something they had always used against me. I told the court that I had not become what my parents wanted. I saw my father's lips curve slightly, a brief moment of satisfaction, as if he believed I was proving his point. But that moment didn't last long, because I wasn't finished. I told the court they were wrong about everything else. Inside that file were records, documents, and details of the last 3 years that my parents had chosen to ignore. When my grandfather had fallen seriously ill, they were not there. They were away, living their lives, untouched by the responsibility that should have brought them back. I was the one who stayed. I managed his medications, took him to the hospital, sat beside him through long nights when he couldn't sleep, and listened when he felt alone. None of those moments had witnesses. None of them had recognition. But they were real. Their lawyer tried to interrupt, dismissing my words as emotional and irrelevant, but I continued. Because this time, I had something they couldn't argue with. I requested permission to play a video, something my grandfather had recorded before his passing. When the screen lit up, the entire room seemed to lean into the moment. There he was, weaker than I remembered, but still carrying the same warmth in his eyes. He spoke calmly, as if he knew exactly when and where his words would be heard. He acknowledged the possibility of conflict, of his family turning against each other after he was gone. He spoke about my parents with a quiet understanding, not anger, but disappointment. And then he spoke about me. He described the time I had spent with him, not as something extraordinary, but as something genuine. He made it clear that the house was not a reward, not a prize to be won, but a form of protection, a place where I could stand without being reduced to nothing by the people who should have supported me. When the video ended, the silence that followed felt different from before. It wasn't tense or uncomfortable. It was heavy with realization. For the first time, my parents had no immediate response, no argument ready to challenge what had just been revealed. The confidence they had carried into the courtroom began to fade, replaced by something unfamiliar. The judge took a moment before speaking, his expression thoughtful as he looked between both sides. His words came slowly, but each one carried weight. He acknowledged the evidence, confirming that the will was valid and that the property rightfully belonged to me. But what mattered more was what he said next. He spoke about value, not the kind measured by money, status, or expectations, but the kind shown through actions, through resilience, through standing firm even when surrounded by doubt. He made it clear that a person's worth could not be defined by others so easily, especially not by those who failed to see it. His gaze shifted toward my parents as he spoke, his tone firm but controlled, as if delivering more than just a legal decision. It was a statement, one that cut through years of judgment and replaced it with something far more powerful. As I stood there, listening, something inside me shifted. The fear that had followed me into the courtroom slowly loosened its grip. The weight of that one word, useless, no longer felt as heavy as it once had. For the first time, it didn't define me. It didn't control how I saw myself. And as the reality of the moment settled in, I realized that this was never just about a house or a legal victory. It was about finally being seen for who I truly was, not by the people who refused to understand me, but by the truth I had chosen to stand on in front of everyone. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to support you are the ones who try to break you the most. But the truth has a way of finding its voice, no matter how long it stays hidden. This wasn't just a courtroom victory. It was a moment where silence turned into strength, and pain turned into power. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, or called something you're not, remember this: your worth is not decided by others. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to prove your worth to someone who doubted you?